jumping right in with an amazing lecture and our honorable lecturer, Mrs. Jana Makedonska, who will give us a keynote lecture on implementing the EU digital health strategy. Jana?
Hello.
Good
afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. It is a pleasure to be here and speak at this year's Biotech Atelier. Teodora, would I be able to share my screen perhaps, and then I'll say a few words about my role as well.
Absolutely, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot for this. So let's see. I'm going to project on full screen. I hope you can see it now in full screen.
Yes, we do.
Excellent. So as I said, it's a pleasure for me to participate for the first time to this year's edition to Biotech Atelier series. My name is Jana Makedonska. I work as a program manager at the European Health and Digital Executive Agency, which was founded by the European Commission in 2021. I work in the unit for health research, so we manage collaborative research projects between participants from EU member states and associated countries to the research and innovation framework programs of the European Union. So these are Horizon Europe, the new framework program, and the legacy of Horizon 2020. So I'll be talking to you today about implementing the digital health strategy from the perspective of the policymakers, in other words, the Commission. I worked beforehand at the Commission, and then I was delegated to HADEA when it was founded. And then I'm going to tell you what we do in order to implement these projects. I'm going to present to you some calls for proposals. We call them topics in our language, which may be interesting for you. And the different programs of HADEA beyond the framework programs, actually, because we also work with DG Santé directly, which does a lot of public health studies and programs within different member states, and DG Communications and Networks as well have their own digital health dimension that HADEA, as we call this agency, manages. So what am I going to be talking about in a nutshell? It is going to be a high-level presentation because I imagine that this would be suitable for this kind of audience. So first, I'm going to present to you our agency, the European Health and Digital Executive Agency. Then I am going to present an outline of Horizon Europe Cluster 1, focusing on health. We are going to talk about the most important policy documents that actually plan the strategy for the years to come by the Commission, which are implemented through funding programs most of the time, as you may know. We are going to briefly touch upon the European Health Data Space because that's a hot topic, and our calls for proposals are to an extent inspired to contribute to this, to the building of the European Health Data Space. Then I'm going to mention briefly Horizon 2020 legacy, a couple of digital health projects. I know that you're interested in digital therapeutics. You may or may not be aware of these topics, these projects. This is not a hugely funded area in research and innovation in our framework programs, though now I would say our topics are very broad, so normally they invite for these kind of proposals as well. Digital diagnostics is more common actually for us. But as I say, digital therapeutics is not an area that is not allowed. Horizon Europe, digital health topics for the first 2 years of our work program. You'll see quite a bit of investment in there with very broad impact-driven topics. Then we are going to look at some projects that came from these topics which are about to start, which are relevant for the EHDS. And then we are going to focus on some topics from the Digital Europe program of DG Communications and Networks and the EU for Health program of DG Santé. This is the so-called health program, the fourth health program, if you wish. There'll be a brief mention of this. So HADEA is an executive agency of the European Commission. So what we do is we manage funding programs on the behalf of the Commission in 5 areas. So health, which is what I'll be talking about today, food safety, space industry, and digital. If we have to kind of split in a way the roles and the responsibilities, the Commission is responsible for the policy or the strategy. So they develop, they draft the calls for proposals, the overall scheme, architecture of the work program, develop the priorities, They make the funding or co-funding decisions. In some case, member states co-fund our grants, actually. That's why I'm saying co-funding. And then evaluate the performance of the agency and the implementation, the results of these projects that we fund. The agency is HADEA or a different agency, because there are quite a few executive agencies actually working with the European Commission. It's not just HADEA. HADEA is the newest, actually. It turns policy into action. In other words, we monitor the progress of the projects which are funded. We report on interesting results to the Commission. We organize the evaluations with external experts as well. And we communicate the outcomes to the Commission as well. The funding programs that we manage at HADEA are expected. So HADEA is a new entity. It started in 21, actually. And we expect to have a budget of nearly 20 billion euro in different funding programs. You can see the distribution here on this pie chart, if I can call it. It's more like a donut chart, but it doesn't matter. So Horizon Europe, Cluster 1 on health specifically, for this one, HADEA is going to manage 5.4 billion in total. So this is one unit of HADEA, the unit from which I'm coming. Then there are units managing the EU for Health program of DG Santé, with a budget of 4.7 billion. I'm going to be talking a little bit about this, especially in relation to the European Health Data Space, because they do have actions funding this. And then I'll be talking about the Digital Europe program, another interesting program, from which HADEA manages 0.8 billion euro topics, calls for proposals, which become projects in the end. So this is the overall architecture of Horizon Europe. You can see the different pillars. The Cluster 1 on health fits under the global challenges and the European industrial competitiveness. So I'll be talking about topics from this cluster, and I'll be mentioning something else that I think is interesting for this audience. This is the European Innovation Council. That is a new entity, a new agency, which has its own policy responsibility. So it's a bit more than a simple agency, which is not part of HADEA yet. We do know a little bit about their business. I'll be mentioning what they do as well. You certainly know Horizon 2020. I think it was quite popular as the Research and Innovation Framework Program of the European Union. You may ask what's the difference between Horizon Europe and Horizon 2020, its predecessor. It's more than an evolutionary difference. It's not a revolutionary difference. But a few things I think interesting for you as potential applicants in these programs is that we really aim at supporting breakthrough innovation, mostly through the European Council, Innovation Council, but you'll see that we have quite a few topics which I think are interesting for innovators as well. We also do procurement, by the way. We try to involve citizens in co-creation exercises together with researchers and policymakers. For example, in missions, you may have heard about the mission on cancer, which is also the projects coming out from the calls for proposals also are managed by my unit in HADEA on the mission on cancer. Then we have strengthened international cooperation in the sense that we have quite a few associated countries to this framework program now. The classic ones were Israel, for example, Norway. Now we have a long list of associated countries which provide budgets to this program so that people applicants from their countries can actually apply and get funding through our program. Then, of course, when we look at individual projects, we really encourage consortia to publish the outputs of the work as public deliverables on our main database, which is Cordis, and of course to publish peer-reviewed publications in gold access. This is a must now, pretty much, so that we pay for the publication. And then we have a new interesting kind of funding exercise now with quite a few European public-public partnerships. So I'll be mentioning some of these. We have one which is about to start now on transforming health and care systems, in which digitalization is quite important, actually. Then we have more upcoming on rare diseases and also on personalized medicine. So these are, what does it mean, a public-public partnership? It's a partnership between the European Commission and member states. and sometimes associated countries to the framework program, which develop a strategy for a specific topic. They develop a work program with transnational calls for proposals in which applicants it's again collaborative research across borders. And in the end, they monitor these programs. They make sure that there is transfer of good practices, twinning between different institutions, study visits, networking, capacity building. So this is a partnership. And on top of that, we have public-private partnerships, such as the European Health, the Innovative Health Initiative that you may have heard of, as the next step in a way, but not exactly, of the Innovative Medicines Initiative, involving a much wider spectrum of industrial partners beyond pharma, including medical devices, digital health, etc. So looking at Cluster 1 Health in Horizon Europe, there's some strategy documents that are publicly available. You can read through these, but I thought it's relevant to mention its areas of intervention. So this is where we would like to make a difference, in other words. And this partly relates to the wider impacts from the different actions we fund that we ask consortia to commit to. So there are medium-term impacts and wider impacts. So we would like to do research or innovation actions on health throughout the life course. We would like to focus on non-communicable diseases, rare diseases, but also infectious diseases, poverty-related diseases, emerging epidemics, neglected diseases, environmental and social determinants of health. Of interest to you, tools, technologies, and digital solutions. Oftentimes, if you see our topics, these are oriented towards personalized medicine. We have actually in Horizon Europe already there was a substantial investment in digital solutions to help personalized medicine. So that's not something new for us. And of course, research on health and care systems is the last area of intervention. Now I mentioned to you that I'll briefly walk you through the main policy documents that were published by the European Commission in the last 4 years of its work. And I have taken screenshots of these documents, which are again publicly available. You can consult this. It's quite interesting to read these documents because, as I mentioned, they would tell you what the main pillars of funding activity would be of the Commission for a specific topic in the years to come. So, for example, we had a very important communication published in 2018, which was the communication of the Commission on enabling the digital transformation of health and care in the digital single market, which was aiming at empowering citizens, sometimes to even have access to their own health data and building a healthier society. So these communications normally addressed to the other EU institutions, the Parliament, the Council, the European Economic and Social Committee, the Committee of the Regions. But of course, they're publicly available also in different languages, by the way. So if you want to read it in Bulgarian, you can read it in Bulgarian as well. Then later on, when the new Commission started and President Ursula von der Leyen stepped in office, there was a digital package published in the very beginning of 2020, just before COVID-19 started. So several communications, such as a European strategy for data, was published, then Shaping Europe Digital Future, a white paper on artificial intelligence, the European approach to artificial intelligence, to a trustworthy AI, as we call it. And the last paper from this series was a report on the safety and liability implications of artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and robotics. Then later on this year, there was a regulation, a proposal for a regulation that was published. That was the Data Governance Act, which some of our projects are trying to test in a way through their developments. Then, because it was COVID-19 times in 2020, there was a recommendation for a common union toolbox for the use of technology and data to combat and exit from the crisis. And this particularly focused on the digital certificates, mobile applications, and the use of anonymized mobility data. That was a key element. Then, of course, the time for the EHDS, the idea of the EHDS came, and there was a public consultation in which everyone could have sent their feedback on a combined evaluation roadmap or the inception impact assessment of the EHDS at the end of 2020. And finally, there was a proposal for the regulation on the European Health Data Space published in May this year. So the first time we heard about the European Health Data Space was in the mission letter to Commissioner Kyriakides, who is Stella Kyriakides is the Commissioner of DG Sante, the Director General for Health and Food Safety. And it was addressed to her by the President von der Leyen. So this was the very first, I would say, public appearance of this concept. So what is it if we go beyond the expected aims in the long run? So the work that DG Sante together with the DG ICOM from DG Research and DG Communications and Networks is based on four main pillars. One is this legislative proposal. I showed you the screenshot of this document. So basically there, in the different articles, you'll see that there is an attempt to define the governance framework for an EHDS, for a European Health Data Space, and the rules necessary to access health data by different players, in different countries, and for primary and secondary use. But they also want to tackle the relatively limited free movement of digital health services, having some frameworks to support this, and they want to tackle the slow rollout of artificial intelligence because of liability uncertainty, obviously. They want to focus on the data quality, so they want to have a data quality framework in the EHDS. And if you have read or skimmed through the proposal for regulation, you would have seen probably Article 56, which mentions that there is an intention to have a data quality and utility label for certain data sets of high relevance and value of health data sets within the EU, which is interesting. Of course, there'll be piloting work on the infrastructures. I apologize for this, but I've been sick for some time now. So DG Sante is supporting, together with some other directors general, work on piloting and building the necessary infrastructure, of course reusing what is already there, because there were substantial investments in the e-health digital service infrastructure, but DG Sante quite a few things. Of course, on our side, the research infrastructure. So you may have heard about Elixir, the biobanks and biomolecular resources, BBMRI, notably ECRAN for clinical trials, also Eurobioimaging, quite a few ERICs, so-called. And of course, there is an intention to link this initiative with the 1+ million genomes initiative. You may have heard about this member states-driven initiative in which Bulgaria participates as well. And of course, the last aspect, which is important, is capacity building through the digitalization of health and care, digital skills, support for that, sharing of best practices. Now, the full intention, I think if you look in the larger scheme of things of this proposal, is to support citizens, individuals, to take control of their own health data. This is the idea, to have access to an electronic personal health data and to be able to take it with you if you go to a different member state, for example. This is, of course, also have an agreement on standards that can be used for the access and sharing of data, these kind of things. Now, there are several actions to support this work, and this one has been particularly transparent in sharing information online. If you're interested, there are even the contact people indicated for each work package. So this is the joint action called Towards a European Health Data Space. So this is a forum of 25 European countries, several participants per country, which develop the principles for the secondary use of health data in the context of the European Health Data Space. It's coordinated by the Finnish Innovation Fund, and you can see actually, if you go through the website, you will see the work packages. For example, there's one on quality of data with the people in the lead. It's quite interesting, and they have all of the results of this forum are publicly available for you to read. I think it's quite interesting. So this is co-funded and managed by HDEA, the joint action. Now I changed a little bit of direction to guide you through the framework programs. I just wanted to mention in passing, before I start with Horizon Europe, very briefly about Horizon 2020. I don't know if you're familiar with the Cordis website, in which you can search for research projects and their public deliverables and results. The link is here. I can share the presentation with the organizers, of course. And there is a search box here, and you can search for things such as digital therapeutics, for example. And as I mentioned, this is not a hugely funded area in the framework programs. I only got 12 hits, and some of these were deliverables. They were not projects, but deliverables of projects. And one of these projects was Scale. It has ended, I hope you can see this year in May. It was coordinated from Ireland. And it was about tailored digital therapeutics for neurological and brain disorders. And it was funded in Horizon Europe through the Industrial Leadership Program Innovation in SMEs. And there is another smaller in budget, so this was quite substantial. You can see 3.5 million here. A much smaller, but again, a digital therapeutics project. So this was a revolutionary digital therapeutics platform for personalized and effective neurocognitive rehabilitation, coordinated from Israel, from the same funding instrument of Horizon 2020. Of course, we had other interesting topics, especially when it comes to medical technologies, digital tools to help exit the COVID-19 crisis. There were a few. We have supported quite a bit of this kind of research, but I wanted to mention something that may be of more interest to you. Now, this kind of SME instrument is being replaced to a great extent by the European Innovation Council, which has its own work program that is for 22, the one that is now available, but they're working already for the next year's funding program. So I invite you to check their website regularly because there might be some interesting topics for you. For example, there is the EIC Accelerator program, which is about funding startups, SMEs, but in particular startups and spin-offs to develop and scale up what they call game-changing innovations. So usually you submit an application, then they invite you for a pitch if you are shortlisted. There is a jury. It's a separate funding mechanism, but there is even applicants days available on YouTube. You can follow, and there'll be probably new ones when the new work program is available. Now, if we focus on Horizon Europe and what we have funded so far, or are funding so far now in the first 2 years of Horizon Europe on digital health, because the next 2 years work program is not yet available, so it is going to be published in December, the work program for 23-24. So I invite you to check online on the Europa websites for this one, because there might be quite a few interesting topics to which you can apply. And we have a wide range of actions, actually. So as I mentioned, the work program is divided by destinations, which have their own wider impacts that we want each consortium to commit to work towards. For example, in Destination 1, which is staying healthy in a rapidly changing society, so there's quite a bit of parallels with the intervention areas, actually. There was a coordination and support action. So this is a type of action that doesn't carry out research. It develops a strategy, a roadmap, or a strategic research agenda, or something like that. Here it was on supporting digital empowerment and health literacy in citizens. There was a topic on trustworthy artificial intelligence to predict the risk of chronic non-communicable diseases and or their progression, for example, which was a research action. With a total budget of 60 million, I think they had 6 to 8 million per proposal, so you can see they can fund around 6 projects. In a different destination, there was a topic on clinical validation of artificial intelligence solutions for treatment and care, again, research. When it comes to ensuring access to innovative, sustainable and high quality healthcare, there was a topic on data-driven decision support tools for better healthcare and policy making with a focus on cancer. For example, now the next topic I have placed in italic because it does invite for a wide range of solutions. It is a pre-commercial procurement, actually, which we also do. So it is beyond digital, but it doesn't preclude submissions of digital proposals. So that was on building the resilience of healthcare systems in the context of recovery. So there are 2 types of procurement instruments we have, and we can advise you in more details if you're interested. So there is the pre-commercial procurement and the more advanced innovation procurement, which was published on the same thematic. And as I mentioned, we had a topic which was evaluated now in the summer on a European public-public partnership on transforming health and care systems. And this project will start probably from the beginning of 23. A big project that is co-funded between the Commission and the member states who participate. and who are going to develop the strategy, digital being an important component, as I said. So this is now, the grant is under preparation for signature for this one. Now there's a destination which is very tools focused, digital solutions focused, and there were some interesting topics there as well, such as the smart medical devices and their surgical implantation for use in resource constrained settings. This was an innovation action, so it was more piloting oriented. Innovative tools for the use and reuse of health data, in particular electronic health records and or patient registries. So this topic was very important, and I'm going to mention the projects that we are funding from this. They're about to start now. Very important for the European health data space, actually. Another topic that is in direct response to the European health data space that was developed by DG Research principally, but also in co-creation with other directorates general, was a new methods for the effective use of real-world data and or synthetic data in regulatory decision-making and or health technology assessment that was evaluated in the summer, and we'll fund 5 proposals. Now the grants are under preparation. Very interesting projects to come out of this. There was a topic that was more kind of in silico oriented, computational models for new patient certification strategies. Promoting a trusted mHealth label in Europe, another one. Enhancing cybersecurity of connected medical devices, another research and innovation action. Scaling up multi-party computation, data anonymization techniques and synthetic data generation. And setting up a European Smart Health Innovation Hub. Together with the last one for these 2 years, which was the setting up of European Electronic Health Record Exchange format. You have ecosystem. You may have heard about this work of DG Communications and Networks. So these are not open for application. These topics evaluations were organized by us. So that was last autumn, in the spring and in the summer, and now we are expecting for the new work program to come, but I wanted to run you through this to see kind of the thematics and the types of actions and the budget we get. So if we only count the topics that are in a way dedicated to health data, digital health for the first 2 years, excluding the topics in italic, which I presented, we come to a total budget of about 369 million euro. And now if we go back to some of the projects that are about to start, in which some Bulgarian participants are involved, by the way, as the first one project here, Rescue Plus. This project is starting in November. It's coordinated from the Czech Republic. Now it's going to be the National Health Institute, actually. And it focuses on comprehensive solutions for healthcare improvement based on the Global Registry of Stroke Care Quality. So all of these 5 projects, which I'm going to mention, we're going to run them as an informal health data cluster, which we call Into EHR. And we are going to involve DG Sante, who works on the European health data space, in the follow-up of these projects, with the idea that they also provide feedback to the European health data space and how it should look like. Because it's very important to capture the complexity that exists on the ground when you develop such an initiative. So that was one of the projects. Another one focuses on cardiovascular. So this is data tools for heart, coordinated from Barcelona. So the title is the European Health Data Toolbox for Enhancing Cardiology Data Interoperability, Reusability and Privacy. Then there was a project on rare cancers, idea for RC, coordinated from Italy. It stands for Intelligent Ecosystem to Improve the Governance, the Sharing and the Reuse of Health Data for Rare Cancers. We have another project from Italy. This is ECRIM, which focuses on emergency and acute care medicine. So the title is Enabling Clinical Research in Emergency and Acute Care Medicine through Automated Data Extraction. And the last project is from the Netherlands, coordinated from the Netherlands, IDAVA, AI-powered data curation and publishing virtual assistant. So if I have to summarize what these projects are going to do as per the call for proposals requirement, it is really about doing work, natural language processing work with unstructured data sources to improve accessibility, interoperability, translation for different languages in Europe, transcription, and bringing this unstructured data into EHRs and or patient registries. Also working on solutions that would help improve data quality, interoperability, machine readability, the standard. And these developments, we want them to contribute to the building of virtual assistants for clinicians. Sometimes in the case of ICRIM, they also develop platforms for patients actually as well. So that is in a nutshell a kind of projects that we are funding. Now, if you look at a different program that is still managed at HADEA, but in a different unit than mine, this is the Digital Europe program. I'm first going to just point you to a project which I found interesting. So this is from northeastern
Jana,
Romania.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah?
We're going a bit over time, so if you don't mind to wrap up a bit faster.
Yes, of course, of course.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes, so I just wanted to mention to you the concept of European Digital Innovation Hubs. You can find more information online of this and what is the idea, basically to create one-stop shops supporting companies to respond to digital challenges and become more competitive. What I would say is that there were quite a few interesting topics that you can look at on the funding and tenders portal. Most of them are currently closed, so I think it's not worthwhile to go through this now, but you can monitor regularly the website to see. One that is forthcoming, but for existing digital innovation hubs, is this initiative on the network of the EDICs. And the last actually thing I wanted to mention is the EU for Health program of DigiSante, which in addition to the joint action on TEDAS, supports also the piloting of the HTS for secondary use. With this, I finish my presentation, and these are different options for you to get involved with us, either as participants in consortia or as experts who evaluate proposals. Thank you.
That was amazing. Thank you, Jana, so much. I'm really happy to see that there were actually Bulgarian initiatives involved. As you know, here we're a bit behind time, and any innovation comes 10 years later. So that was really nice to see. And just a quick question from the audience that is kind of connected to the topic. I'm guessing it's from a fellow Bulgarian, because he asks, when do you think we will be able to see an actual impact on day-to-day lives of Bulgarians based on those efforts?
Well, if you look at more implementation actions, such as the Digital Europe program, on the innovation hubs, I was a bit surprised to see, you tell me if I'm wrong, that countries like Romania and the northeastern region of Romania have these hubs to support SMEs, while I don't think Bulgaria has. So I think the impact is coming at different levels. So if you look at the projects I was mentioning, you may be thinking, yes, we are dealing with research, but actually we try to do fund really applied research that has impact on the healthcare systems of the countries. The Czechs, for example, what they're doing is that they strategically changed the coordinator of their action to the National Health Institute, because whatever innovation they develop is going to be immediately taken by the healthcare system. So this is a very strategic move, and the coordinator has actually moved after he got this grant to this institute. And they are so strategically placed that they use now the Czech presidency to actually attract attention around these actions and to get the ball rolling. This is the way to go when it comes from our perspective. Of course, if you want to see things change, also I invite Bulgaria to join the TEDAS joint action, because currently I think it's not there from what I saw at least. So they're different, I think. These actions give you the opportunity, especially the public-public partnerships, to actually learn from others, exchange best practices, do twinning. So this is a way actually to have these innovations get tested on the ground in Bulgaria and see whether they're appropriate and it's worthwhile to invest further in these. So I think many of these programs focus on the networking and the cooperation between member states. And I think this is the first key actions to take.
Yes, indeed. We need to take advantage from what the European Commission is proposing and kind of take the initiatives ourselves as well.
Yes, of course.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us and for giving this amazing presentation. It would be great if you share the presentation with us so we can also upload it on our website, as there were some really great resources on there. I believe it would be really useful to the audience.
I'll do that.
Just a quick reminder to them to pop their questions on the chat for the live stream or the Q&A here for WebEx. And thank you again, Jana. It was a great pleasure to have you on Biotech Atelier, and I hope we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Theodora, and everyone. Wishing you a nice afternoon and a fruitful session. Thank you.